Very good morning to one and all. I welcome you to the second day of our symposium on recent trends in pharmaceutical research, organized by Department of Pharmaceutics, Sri Vidyaniketan College of Pharmacy. I would like to welcome today's speaker, Professor T.E. Gopala Krishnamurthy Garu, Principal, Bapatla College of Pharmacy, Bapatla, Andhra Pradesh, for this symposium. Thank you, sir. I extend my hearty welcome to our convener, Vice Principal, Organizing Committee, faculty, and delegates. Now, I request Mrs. A. Shweta, Assistant Professor, to introduce today's speaker.
Good morning to one and all. It is a great honor to introduce today's guest speaker, Dr. T. Gopal Krishnamurthy Garu. Dr. T. Gopal Krishnamurthy Garu was born on 10th August 1970. He has completed his B Pharmacy with distinction from Gulbarga University in the year 1992. He has completed his M Pharmacy with 77.4% from Birla Institute of Technology in the year 1995. He was awarded with PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru Technology University for the thesis entitled Studies on Ethyl Cellulose and Cellulose Estate Films and Microcapsules and Design and Evaluation of Controlled Release Microcapsules of Diclofenac under the guidance of Professor KPR Chaudhary Garu in the year 2004. He is having 25 years of teaching experience. He has worked as a lecturer in RVS College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Coimbatore from April 1995 to November 1995. From November 1995 to till date, he is working in Bapatla College of Pharmacy, Bapatla, as a faculty at various levels. Presently, he is working as professor and principal of Bapatla College of Pharmacy. He has guided 88 M.Pharm projects and 20 PhDs. He has published 238 research papers and 113 Scopus indexed articles. He has published 9 patents and he has completed 1 research project funded by AICTE. He has conducted 3 conferences and 9 faculty development programs. He is the regional coordinator of AP Academy of Sciences from Guntur region. He was the member of CEC, Indian Pharmaceutical Association, Mumbai. He has received various prestigious awards like Fellowship Award from Association of Pharmacy and Biotechnology in the year 2007, Meritorious Teacher Award in the year 2010 from JNTU Kakinada, Faculty Accreditation issued by IAO from USA in the year 2012, Certificate of Appreciation from JNTU Kakinada in the year 2012. He has received Best Teacher Award from JNTU Kakinada in the year 2013. The academic members of the Institute Award from Athens Institute for Education and Research, Greece in 2015. He has received Fellowship Award from Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences in 2016. National Level Innovations and Scientific Research Award from Indian Pharmaceutical Association, Anantapuramu in the year 2017. He has received Best Researcher Award from JNTU Kakinada in the year 2018. It is my privilege to introduce such an eminent personality to the today's session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, the session is handed over to our today's speaker, Professor T. Gopala Krishnamurthy. Sir.
Thank you, madam, for giving a nice introduction about me. And at the outset, I wish to thank the principal, vice principal, and the HOD of Pharmaceutics Department, Dr. Shravan Kumar, and other organizing committee members for inviting me for this 3 days webinar. I am also extremely happy to share this webinar along with 2 senior eminent personalities of pharmaceutics from Andhra University. One is my guru, Professor KPR Chaudhary Garu, who delivered a talk on yesterday. and other well-wisher to me, Professor K.V. Ramanamurthy Garu, who is going to deliver a talk tomorrow. So it is very much pleasure to have a discussion on dissolution enhancement by using a novel technique, because the organizing committee is conducting. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the organizing committee is conducting a talk on recent advances in pharmaceutical research. Of course, dissolution is one of the oldest concept, but still there are several opportunities for new excipients, new techniques to improve the dissolution of the controlled drug delivery systems, immediate release dosage forms, etc., etc. And what is dissolution? Why we have to go for dissolution enhancement? What are existing techniques? How this technique is different from the existing techniques will be highlighted during these deliberations. Just I will share my screen. Whenever a pharmaceutical, maybe a new chemical entity or existing drug or a old drug, there is certain requirements. One is it has to satisfy the good dissolution or release characteristics, and it should be able to transfer through various biological membranes, and at the same time it should also be stable. So these are all some requirements. So dissolution in case of immediate release dosage forms, and release in case of sustained, prolonged or controlled release dosage forms. And the other one is permeability to pass through various biological membranes, come across from different routes of administration. Any problem for screen?
The slide share. Sorry, close button nokki ikkada slide share chestha sir.
So whether screen is visible?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Okay.
Sir, just press that hourglass, sir. That is enough.
Slide show, sir. Just click on slide.
Show.
Sir, bottom, sir. Bottom. Minus plus is there. No, sir. Bottom, sir. Sir, bottom of the screen is there, sir. Yes, sir. Here, close. Okay, sir. Good, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
So today's my talk is improvement of dissolution by fluidized bed coating. And this is the institution building from the institution from which I am working from last 25 years. So it is my privilege to show the building of my college, because my growth is initiated from the same building, and our college was established in 1995, and my academic career was also initiated in the same year, 1995. So what is dissolution and dissolution testing? Because in order to go for advances, it is better to start with the fundamentals of dissolution. So what is dissolution is? Dissolution is a process in which a substance forms a solution. And then how it is differentiated from a solubility? So solubility is the extent, and there we are not going to take the time involvement. And in case of dissolution, it is expressed per unit period of time, how much amount of the drug get dissolved from the dosage form. And the dissolution is measured by using various apparatus suggested in pharmacopoeia. And in dissolution testing measures the extent and rate of solution form from a dosage form, such as a tablet, capsule, suspension, etc. And in this diagram, you can observe in case of a tablet, some of the tablets may undergo solution, and in some cases, it may undergo disintegration, followed by deaggregation, then it will undergo solution formation. So depending upon the steps involved or depending upon the mechanisms used, depending upon the physicochemical properties of the drug, depending upon the pharmaceutical factors that may include the composition or the technique involved in the production of dosage forms, the dissolution may be varied. And in case of immediate release dosage forms, the frequently used term is dissolution, and in case of controlled or sustained repeated release, prolonged release, or modified drug delivery systems, it is described as release of the drug, as the drug will be governed by the polymer used in the development of dosage forms. This dissolution is not only required for oral dosage forms, it is also required for topical dosage forms, which includes not restricted to ointments, creams, and in case of oral, it is not only limited to solid dosage forms like tablets and capsules. It also includes the suspension dosage forms. In suspensions also, the drug should undergo dissolution to get release of the drug from the suspension dosage forms. So different dosage forms will be subjected to dissolution studies. Then what is the role of dissolution in drug development? So the dissolution of a drug is important for its bioavailability and therapeutic effectiveness, especially those drugs which fall under class 2 and class 4 of biopharmaceutical classification system. There will be a term called as dissolution rate limited bioavailability. Whether a drug is having good solubility, good dissolution, or it is suffering with any solubility dissolution problems should be identified at the early stages of product development so that the required strategies to overcome the dissolution and obviously the bioavailability can be enhanced. And dissolution testing is used throughout the development of life cycle of product. It includes drug release and stability testing. So not only at the beginning of the drug delivery system, at various stages, because whenever some approval is there, later if the manufacturer wish to change the excipients, composition, technology, or even from one place to another place, it is shifted, or as per ICH guidelines, the drug delivery system will be subjected to the stipulated conditions at appropriate intervals of time, the stability not only with respect to drug content, the stability of the dissolution, what is the initial drug dissolution or initial drug release, and after period of time, that may be a short-term stability study or long-term stability study, whether the same type of dissolution characteristics that may include either extent of drug dissolution, means the total amount of drug dissolved from the dosage form, whether is there any changes in the rate of dissolution should be governed. Because some of the excipients may undergo some structural changes, some interactions, or it may undergo hardening or aging, and those parameters can be reflected in dissolutions. The drug content may be remain same, but the dissolution or drug release may be changed, thereby the efficiency may be diminished. So in order to address those, it is always better to conduct stability studies with respect to dissolution also. And it is a pivotal analytical test used to detect physical changes in any active pharmaceutical ingredient and formulated product. Means some cases, initially the formulator may employ an amorphous product based on the view that it is having good dissolution. But compared with amorphous form, crystalline product is stable. Upon aging, an amorphous form may be converted to crystalline form. Hence, there is a possibility of changes in the solubility dissolution. And another example is polymorphic transformations. During initially, some cases metastable polymorphic form may be used. During aging, this metastable polymorphic form may be converted to a stable polymorphic form, which is having low solubility and slow dissolution. And hence, the changes in the physicochemical properties upon aging can also be reflected by dissolution studies. And at the early stages of the drug development process, in vitro dissolution testing underpins the optimization of drug release from a given formulation. So yesterday, everybody witnessed a talk on Professor KPR Chaudhary Garu related to optimization. So here, in case of optimization, one of the tool is dissolution, because the dissolution may be influenced by some physicochemical properties of the API and formulation factors of the dosage form and the process parameters of the dosage form. So one has to identify which factors are affecting directly or indirectly the efficiency of the dosage form and how to overcome the problems involved and how to set those optimization parameters should be optimized. So in case of optimization also, one of the parameter used is dissolution. And what is BCS and dissolution? Because if a drug belongs to class 1 category, until unless it is not meant for controlled drug delivery system, there is no need to touch about the dissolution. Whereas in case of class 2 drug, as it is having low dissolution, there is a need to improve dissolution. Because in case of BCS, class 2 categories are having poor solubility, high permeability, and class 4 drugs are having poor solubility and poor permeability. So in case of class 2 and class 3 drugs, there is a need to improve dissolution. So if the drug belongs to class 1 or class 3, there is no need to enhance the proceedings of dissolution. Then whether a drug is having dissolution rate limited problem or not, how to identify it? So an immediate release drug product is considered rapidly dissolving when not less than 85% of the labeled amount of the drug substance dissolves within 30 minutes using USP apparatus 1 by keeping at 100 RPM or apparatus 2 at 50 RPM. In case of paddle, it should be conducted at 50 RPM, and in case of basket, it should be 100 RPM. Then how much volume of the dissolution medium is? Maximum it will be 900 ml, and some cases you may go for even 500 ml depending upon the sink conditions. And the drug should get dissolved at 85% in any one of this dissolution medium. Either it may be 0.1 normal hydrochloric acid or simulated gastric fluid without enzymes, or pH 4.5 buffer, pH 6.8 buffer, or simulated intestinal fluid without enzymes. So a drug which is having a dissolution of 85% within 30 minutes conducted either by apparatus 1 or by apparatus 2, any one of these suggested dissolution mediums, then that drug is said to be having good dissolution and no need to go for any improvement of dissolution. So my dear colleagues and research scientists, my appeal to you is whenever you want to go for dissolution enhancement studies, the first thing which you have to identify is whether a drug is having actually a dissolution related problem or not. If it is having a dissolution related problem with respect to bioavailability, then only we have to go for enhancement of dissolution studies. So this is the key problem which we have to identify. If it is identified, then we can go for enhancement of dissolution studies. Then the next one is talking about dissolution parameters. So whether we have to go for dissolution enhancement, then we have to confirm whether the dissolution is really enhanced or not. So in order to compare that data, what is the dissolution parameter observed from the pure drug, and with respect to your technology, is there any appreciable changes in the dissolution characteristics or not? If it is so, in order to identify it, we have to use some dissolution parameters. So what are different dissolution parameters used to compare the improvement in dissolution? Some of the parameters here highlighted. One is % drug released under a given set of conditions. Say if you open Indian Pharmacopoeia, they used to specify the dissolution study should be conducted for a specified period of time, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and they will mention certain value named as D value, and some pharmacopoeias you may identify it as a Q value. So that D value states that during the dissolution study, and it should be not less than that stated amount of drug should be dissolved from the dosage form. So whether that percent drug release is observed or not, if it is percent drug release observed is more than that, then only it is allowed to be released into the market. So what is the percent drug release observed before changing the dissolution enhancement approaches, and after changes in the either formulation or technology, what is the percent drug release observed at same period? Say for example Q30. Q30 indicates the quantity of drug release at 30 minutes before the enhancement protocol and after enhancement strategy. Is there any changes in that percent drug release? The second one is mean in vitro dissolution time, MDT. So how much time is required for completion of dissolution is mean dissolution time. Whether the mean dissolution time is reduced with your technology compared with the pure drug itself. So actually the drug, by virtue of its physicochemical properties, it will be having certain dissolution values, and we will make attempts to either increase in dissolution parameters or reduction in dissolution parameters. In case of controlled drug delivery systems, we want to reduce the K value, dissolution rate value, and extent of dissolution should be same, because an ideal dosage form should always yield the complete labeled amount of the drug should be dissolved or released from the drug delivery system. So there should not be any changes in the quantity of the drug released at the end from the drug delivery system. And the next parameter is dissolution time point. And here at a specified time means how much amount of how much time is required for 50% of drug release, how much time is required for 90% drug release. Whereas in case of first one is the quantity of the drug released or particular period of time. And here is the quantity of the drug release, the time required for 50% drug release. And as per USP guidelines, the comparison of dissolution data, we are having similarity factor and difference factor. And if the similarity factor is greater than 50, then we can say the dissolution data of your product before and after modification of dissolution strategies, it remains the same. If it is greater than 50, then we can say this dissolution is not having any variations and it is similar. And the other one is dissolution number. Dissolution number is defined as ratio of mean residence time to mean dissolution time. And if it is preferably dissolution number is 1, then we can say it is extremely good, and whatever the time for the retention of the drug delivery system in the GIT and the time required for dissolution, both are same. And we are also having some other numbers like solubility number, absorption number in BCS classification system, but the today's talk is dissolution, so I confine to only dissolution number. So these are all some parameters which we have to use whenever we want to go for dissolution enhancement studies. So before dissolution enhancement, what is Q30 value, and after dissolution attempt to improve it, then what is the Q30 value, and what is the T50 value before the going for modification, and what is the T50 value after modification. Is there any variations in the similarity factor values and dissolution number? So that will be the parameters which we have to highlight in during these dissolution studies. And dissolution enhancement strategies. So how we have to go for dissolution enhancement? So whenever we want to go for any attempt to improve, to alter any process, one has to identify the factors involved in that process. In any process, there will be a driving force and resistance factors. And here the dissolution is mechanisms of dissolution and rate of dissolution were explained by various scientists with various models and various mathematical equations based on mechanistic models. And one of the most commonly used equation to enhance or to explain the proceedings of dissolution or mechanisms of dissolution is undoubtedly Nash-Whitney equation or modified Nash-Whitney equation, which you are watching in this slide. Here, the rate of dissolution is left-hand side dC by dt, that is the amount of drug dissolved with respect to unit period of time is influenced by 3 parameters in the driving force and 1 parameter in resistance. And those 3 parameters in the numerator are driving force or diffusion coefficient, surface area, and other one is concentration gradient, and the resistance is thickness of the stagnant layer surrounding the dosage form, because whenever a dosage form is having contact with a biological fluid, it is going to form a stagnant layer on the surface, and the drug should travel into the bulk or bulk biological fluid through that stagnant barrier film. The thickness of that film is in the resistance. In case of controlled drug delivery systems, there will be using some polymers, and those polymers are going to form a thick viscous layer, thereby thickness is going to be increased and the rate of dissolution is going to be reduced. And in case of IR, we are not using such kind of polymers, so the thickness of the stagnant layer is not contributed by the components present in the formulation. It may be influenced by stirring, and in case of gastrointestinal tract, the biological motility, gastrointestinal motility in fact. So in the case of numerator, surface area. Surface area is one of the parameters the various scientists attempted to improve the surface area by micronization, nanonization, etc. Another one is the CS minus CT, where CS is saturated solubility and CT is the amount of the drug dissolved at particular period of time. And in case of CS is higher, automatically the dissolution rate is going to be increased. And so several scientists make suitable attempts to improve the solubility of the drug. So from this equation, we can categorize the approaches into two. One is the approaches based on enhancement of surface area, and other one is approaches based on the enhancement of solubility of the drug in the dissolution medium. And dissolution enhancement strategies. There are wonderful terms like drug derivatization, solid state manipulation, complexation, surfactants, buffers, apart from the surface area and the solubility changes. So one of the techniques used in the drug derivatization techniques and solid state manipulations, here we can find heterogeneous solid phase and homogeneous solid phase. And in case of homogeneous solid phase is polymorphism and non-crystalline solids are examples to improve the solubility and thereby dissolution. And in case of heterogeneous solid phases, we can find solvates, retardation of phase transformation, racemates, enantiomers, eutatics, polymer carriers, glass dispersions, solid state dispersions. So these are all the existing literature which is available. Another one is in case of a drug derivatization aspect, one is the prodrug by changing the physicochemical parameters, by identifying the ionic or ionizable groups which can easily converted to suitable chemical analogs and prodrugs, and most commonly used functional groups like phosphate, succinate functional groups. The drug, for example, in case of a metformin hydrochloride or atropine sulfate, by using some kind of salt formations, ester formations, metoprolol succinate, metoprolol tartrate. These are all some examples where a drug can be converted to have good solubility, good dissolution, better bioavailability, etc. And melting point and solubility dissolution is also having several relationships, was explained by various scientists. And melting point generally, the compound which is having high melting point will be having low solubility and low dissolution. By reducing the melting point, the solubility dissolution can be enhanced. And these are all some approaches which are already reported to enhance the solubility and dissolution. And today's talk is nanonization for dissolution enhancement. So as per Naismith-Whitney equation, the particle size, reduction of particle size obviously elevates the surface area, that is effective surface area available for dissolution. Because micronization was found to be a worthwhile technique for enhancement of dissolution. And in case of a drug phenocitin, it was observed that micronization was found to enhance the surface area, but effective surface area means the actual realistic surface area available for dissolution medium, that is more important. So micronized phenocitin, whenever it is subjected to dissolution studies in surfactant medium, then only it was witnessed to have high dissolution rate. The problem is the micronized or nanonized particles are having high energy, and because of that high energy, there is a possibility of aggregates or clumps. Thereby, the surface area may not be available for during dissolution studies. So we can go for micronization, nanonization. So it will be having nano particle size or micron size. But later on aging, these particles, because of their high residual energy, they may undergo the conversion of different types of aggregates. Thereby dissolution may not be expected to have the required. So why we are having different techniques for micronization, nanonization. But in case of the nanonization, micronization, we can have better control on particle size. And apart from not only the reduction in surface area, it is also having improvement in solubility of the drug. So in the Naismith-Whitney equation, by micronization, nanonization, two parameters can be altered simultaneously at a time. That is surface area and as well as solubility, both can be increased. So that is the advantage. Because two factors are altered, then the question will arise, why we have to go for this nanonization, not by using the traditional milling equipments like fluid energy mill or ball mill or hammer mill or any other the milling equipments. The milling results mechanical forces and it may generate some heat. And because of that heat, there is a possibility of deterioration, decomposition of the drug molecules. And that is why milling is always not preferable. Then we can go for some alternative techniques in order to ensure that it is not undergo aggregation tendency. So here there are two requirements now. One is we have to go for nanonization. At the same time, we have to ensure that it is retained as such. Means nanoparticles should be deposited and retained in the same nano form. There should not undergo any aggregation or clump formation. That is one of the required feature for such kind of compounds or such of this technique. And in this you can identify, in case of starting we will be having a larger size, gradually how it is going to be changed, and finally the surface area occupied is going to be increased. So this nanonization is based on the reduction of particle size, improvement in solubility and dissolution, and at the same time it should have better dissolution and it should be retained in the nanoparticle form up to its completion of its task. Completion of its task means its dissolution should be completed. So the task should be completed. And in order to address this test technique, one of the technique is reported in the literature called as minuscular drug delivery system. What is this minuscular drug delivery system? Is the drug should be dissolved in organic solvent, and that organic solution is expected to be sprayed on some inert adsorbents like kaolin, calcium carbonate. Later, the solvent is going to be evaporated so that the particles which was dissolved in the organic solution will be sprayed, and later due to the evaporation of that organic solvent, it will allow the fine deposition of nanoparticles on the surface of inert clay, and during dissolution, there will be slow detachment of that nanoparticles from that inert clay. And but that technique is based on organic solvents. But the recent guidelines like OSHA guidelines or regulatory guidelines, the organic solvents are not recommended because of some safety issues. So it is better to confine to aqueous systems, but the drug is not soluble in aqueous systems. So we have to go for some blended approach in order to form some nano suspensions, and in order to see that nano suspensions are going to be deposited on that. And one of the oldest technique used in pharmaceutical industries is pan coating, followed by fluidized bed coating. And nowadays, we can, in the commercial market, you can find several pellets that may be immediate release pellets, entry coated pellets, or delayed release pellets, sustained release, or modified release pellets. So in case of pelletization technique, the reproducibility, validations are going to be easy, and industrial feasibility is also good. So that is why now the trend is related towards the pellets. And in case of pellet, normally there will be a dummy beads, like maybe sugar beads or microcrystalline seeds. On the surface of them, there will be deposition of a drug layer. On that drug layer, there will be deposition of some polymeric coating in order to go for either functional or some other parameters like changes in organoleptic properties or changes in the release characteristics, or in order to improve the stability. Based on different purposes, this coating technique will be used. Generally, the coating technique is confined in pharma industry in order to regulate the release characteristics mainly, and some cases in order to safeguard the stability of the drug from the pellets. So what is this fluidized bed coating principle is, it is a type of spray coating, an optimum surface coating through even application of coating material. Because in order to do any dosage form should satisfy the drug content, and in order to have a uniform drug coating, uniform deposition of the material on the surface of the dosage form is one of the pre-requirement. That pre-requirement is completely fulfilled by fluidized bed coating techniques. And with this method, particles having different shapes and sizes can be moved, and it will be fluidized and simultaneously sprayed by using some liquids. And the aqueous as well as organic solutions will be used in fluidized bed coating, and the casing can be used as a protective layer to increase shelf life or storage stability, and sometimes it may be used as a functional, like to mask odor, taste, or to release a specific active substances. And this coating can take place as a top spray, tangential spray, bottom spray, which is known as a Wurster process or a rotor process, depending from direction of the particles are being sprayed. So these particles are moving towards the upper direction or towards the bottom direction. Whether this fluidized bed is present in vertical or horizontal direction, depending upon that, various fluidized bed coating or fluidized or fluid bed coaters are available in the industry. So in this technique, in the proposed technique is, the first part is preparation of micro or nano suspensions. So why this micro or nano suspension is prepared is, so before discussing this concept, so I will say roughly like this. Normally, a tablet is prepared with a drug. And this concept is, a tablet will be prepared without a drug. Only the diluent, disintegrating agent, lubricating agent, and it is subjected to compression. And in the compressed tablet, now the drug solution means the drug will be dissolved in organic solvent. Then the drug solution can be sprayed on the surface of the tablet, and the solvent is evaporated, leaving the firm deposition of the solid particles on the surface of the tablet, so that deposition of nanonized drug particles on the surface of the tablet. That is the one of the technology. And here the technology is modified. Instead of organic solvent, the drug is converted to a nano suspension, and that nano suspension is going to be deposited on the surface of the tablet. That is the aim of this technology. And the other technology is in case of pan coating as well as air suspension coating, some coating beads will be used. That is called as non-paral sugar beads. So non-paral sugar beads will be placed in the coating pan. Then there will be spraying of a drug solution over the surface of the drug-free pellets. Then it is allowed to undergo some sort of momentum or rotation so that the drug solution will be uniformly deposited on the surface of the tablets or the beads. Then the solvent is allowed to undergo evaporation, thereby deposition of the drug particles on the surface of the tablet or the particles, so that the firm deposition of the particles is going to take place. So the first step involved is preparation of micro or nano suspension of the drug. And here aqueous solution of stabilizers is the first step to be prepared. And these some of the stabilizers are like Queen 80, Poloxmer, polyvinyl alcohol, or even sodium lauryl sulfate can be used to dissolve in the water with different concentrations. And which concentration is better, that can be addressed based on optimization in the later stages. So in order to address which which stabilizer is better, at what concentration is it better, first we have to identify. So that is qualitative factor. Among the Queen 80, Poloxmer, PVA, SLS or any other, we have to use same concentration, and then it should be subjected to dissolution studies, which one among these is better. Then we can go for, after identification of the stabilizer, we have to go for different concentrations of that stabilizer in order to identify at what concentration of the stabilizer the product is exhibiting the required dissolution characteristics. And so the drug solution will be sprayed and it will be retained. But at the same time, we have to ensure that the drug should be retained on the surface of the solid substrate. That may be a tablet or that may be a non-paral sugar bead. So in order to retain that, binder is required. And these binders may be hydrophilic binders as well as hydrophobic binders. So like stabilizer and this binder also, in presence of which binder, the drug should satisfy the required dissolution apart from the strength of the pellet. Strength of the pellet means like tablets, these pellets can also be subjected to friability studies. If the binder is weak, then it will be having high friability values. So the friability studies of pellets can be conducted in order to identify whether binder is effective in order to retain the drug on the surface of the pellets or tablets, and at the same time whether it is able to release the drug. Normally, if you are using binder, concentration is increased. Obviously, the drug will be firmly retained on the substrate because of binding capability. At the same time, if you are using high concentration of the binder, it will retard the dissolution. So we have to optimize the binder concentration at which we are having the required dissolution as well as the required friability or mechanical strength. Then the drug was dispersed in this kind of stabilizer solution. So for stabilizer solution is having two components. One is binder and other one is surfactant. Next, the drug should be dispersed in that binder or stabilizer solution. Now, the dispersion should be subjected to homogenized using high-speed homogenizer. Of course, here I specified 10,000 RPM for 10 minutes. It is not mandatory. It may be varied depending upon the physicochemical properties of the drug, surface tension, viscosity of the solvent which you are using. Accordingly, we have to go for alterations in the process parameters that may include RPM of the homogenizer as well as time of operation of the homogenizer in order to form homogeneous micro or nano suspension And here you can identify this homogenizer and the homogenizer which is available in our institution. By using this homogenizer, we prepared such kind of nano suspensions. After preparation of this nano suspension, it is further subjected to a probe sonicator in order to reduce the particle size further. And in case of the next step should be after probe sonicator, even it may be subjected to some high pressure homogenizer so that the nano suspensions can be prepared. So in order to prepare this nano suspension, these are all the steps involved. First one is preparation of a stabilizer and binder solution. And in this step, again, we have to go for qualitative and quantitative factors in order to identify which stabilizer, which binder is better. And again, quantitative factors like concentration of the binder, concentration of the stabilizer. Once this is set, then we have to go for high-speed homogenization, where the process variables like RPM of the homogenizer, time of operation of the homogenizer, then it should be subjected to sonication. Here again, in case of sonication also, there are some process variables like how much time you subjected to sonication and what is the frequency of the waves you used for sonication. Next, in case of high pressure homogenizer, at what pressure it is subjected to homogenizer, and based on that, the size and stability of the nano suspension will be influenced. So once you are having this nano suspension, then this nano suspension is subjected to deposition over the surface of the seeds. And again, in case of seeds, we can, in the commercial market, we are having availability of different seeds like sugar, microcrystalline cellulose, etc. So this here, the fluid bed coater which is available at our institution on which we worked is showed here. So this is the fluid bed coater. It is horizontal top spray model, and here we can use different types of beads, and those beads can also be prepared at our local college itself by using pan coating, where sugars, where commercially available sugar can be purchased, and by using some starch paste or by using even a sugar syrup, it can be sprayed so that the sugar beads can be prepared with the uniform spherical shape, with uniform particle size distribution. And it can also be prepared those beads by using extrusion spheronization technique also. And by using those techniques, we can prepare locally some type of uniform size and spherical shaped crystals in order to identify. Again, the solubility and dissolution of the drug may vary with respect to one non-parallel sugar bead to microcrystalline bead. So we have to deposit on the surface of different types of beads in order to identify from which bead the drug is having, because the solubility and dissolution is influenced by environment of the drug. If the drug is having suitable hydrophilic environment, it may favor the solubility and dissolution. And we have to ensure the stability also, whether there is no physicochemical interactions between the drug and the selected non-parallel sugar beads, which can be conducted by using the subjected to pre-formulation studies, what is drug excipient compatibility studies. After subjecting to drug excipient compatibility studies, we can identify that whether the drug is free from interactions or not. Then such kind of seed is suggested to go for development and release characteristics of the non-parallel sugar beads. So once the starter seed is identified, then these starter seeds are available in different sizes. And by using conventional mechanical sieving or mechanical shaking approach, we can collect different fractions of the identified seeds. Then on different size sieve fractions of, because means in case of this fluidized bed dryer or bed coater, we have to charge the identified the sugar or microcrystalline beads of varied size, and then this nano suspension will be sprayed. After completion of stipulated period of time, the product will be collected and analyzed for the drug content. thereby which seed is going to have, which size of the seed is providing required solubility dissolution characteristics. So this is the principle of this technique. So in this principle, the coating technology, because on the surface of either tablet or a bead, a drug solution will be sprayed, and that drug solution is not suitable because the drug is soluble in organic solvent and it cannot be presented as aqueous solution as the drug is not soluble. So we are preparing nano suspension, and that nano suspension will be deposited on the surface of the pellets or tablets, and in order to retain it, suitable binder is required. So nanoization and subsequent transfer of that nano suspension on the surface of some solid substrate is the basic motive behind this approach. And based on this approach, now the dissolution rate can be enhanced. And in our laboratory, this technique was successfully used in order to improve the dissolution rate of the olmesartan meloxicam as well as telmisartan, and these two drugs dissolution rate was found to be enhanced several times compared with the basic dissolution of these two class 2 drugs, and we successfully developed this kind of technology, and these two were also filed for patents. Now, what are different parameters to be considered in this fluidized bed coating? As the quality of the parameters, and this quality is the output, and this quality is dependent on some input material attributes and process parameters. And what are input material attributes are the dimensions of the tablet or dimensions of the pellet. And the other one is whether it is having any defects, whether it is having smooth texture, smooth surface, whether it is having uniform size or not. And other one is hardness and plasticity, because until unless the substrate is not having sufficient mechanical strength, it cannot withstand the coating conditions. So the basic criteria, because during coating, it should not undergo any sort of chipping, cracking. So we have to ensure it is having the required strength in order to withstand the coating conditions. And other one is density, porosity, moisture content. Some of the materials may not withstand the moisture. It may undergo hydrolysis. Then we have to restrict the coating conditions and ensure that the raw material or the substrate which is used for coating is free from moisture content. So these are all certain pre-requirements which we have to address in the process with respect to input material attributes. And with respect to process is considered type of fluid bed coater. As I mentioned in the beginning, fluid bed coater is available with different types of spray pattern like tangential, top, bottom, etc. And depending upon that, the coating, the amount of material deposited, the time required for deposition of the coating may vary, and hence we have to address that parameter. And the second one is fluid bed load level, means how much amount of pellets is used for coating. Because the efficiency of that equipment, because minimum it will require certain operating load and electricity. So if you are using low quantity of the material, that is wastage of energy, and if you are using high quantity of the pellets, the drug solution may not be uniformly deposited because it is overloaded, and the momentum of the pellets inside the fluid bed coater may be restricted. So that is why we have to address that issues also. And another one is partition column diameter, partition column height. So what is the actual area available to provide a contact between the coating material and the core material which is receiving the coating material, and air distribution plate type and size. Because the velocity of the air is influenced by the distribution plate type and the size of that plate, size of the orifices available in that plate, and filter type and orifice size. Because in some cases, the purity of the air is also important. The air should be free from any carrying materials, And so that is also one of the crucial parameter with respect to chemical stability of the drug. So one has to identify that, and what pressure it is going to be introduced, and which type of spray nozzle you are going to use, which spray pattern is going to be used, and what is the nozzle size, because the nozzle size is going to indicate what is the size of the droplet delivered from the spray. Though you are preparing a nano suspension, but during delivery from the spray nozzle, if it is the spray pattern is not good, then there is a possibility of clump formation tendency. So the spray pattern, spray rate, and total spray rate, and atomization, air pressure, and what is the inlet airflow rate, volume, temperature, and what is the dew point of the air, and what is the product temperature, because after completion of the drying, the product, what is its temperature, preferably it should be a temperature just a slight exceeding the room temperature, and what is the exhaust air temperature. If exhaust air temperature is more than room temperature, that indicates you are wasting of the energy, because the heat energy is not completely utilized, and the total coating, curing, and drying time involved in this case. And with respect to quality is considered, means the finished product is considered. Coating efficiency. Coating efficiency indicating that whether the coating material, how much amount of coating material is used, and how much amount of the material is deposited. Is there any losses during the process? That may be adherence of the coating material in the processing equipment, that is the wastage. So how much quantity you used and how much quantity is effectively deposited, and the difference is loss. And we have to always attempt to minimize that loss. And what is the coat tablet weight before and after the deposition? That indicates the percentage of coating, how much amount of the coating material is deposited, whether the required drug is deposited or not, and what is the final moisture or during the preheating. So the moisture, that is called as residual moisture content retained. Residual moisture content, and that may be sometimes it is equal to equilibrium moisture content, and we have to dry up to that will be better. And environmental equivalency, whether it is favor for the environment or not, and coated drug product appearance, because one of the quality control parameter in the dosage forms is physical appearance. And most of the cases we may use some color also in order to have some aesthetic appeal or elegancy. And if the color is not uniformly observed, then though the drug may be deposited, it may have good dissolution performance, but the consumer may not accept that product. So we have to ensure that the product is having good appearance, and what is the percentage weight gain because of coating, and how much thickness because of the coating is deposited, and whether it is having coating uniformity, and whether this deposited after deposition, whether it is having suitable mechanical strength in order to withstand the subsequent packing materials, and whether it is having the disintegration, dissolution, the satisfactory requirements, whether the tablet is satisfying the required disintegration, dissolution criteria or not. So that should also be addressed. So the final product is having good required dissolution or not. So these are all the parameters which we have to optimize. So this is the technology which is used, because why I can say it is a novel technique, because the topic is theme is recent advances. So fluidized bed coating is not recent advance, because fluidized bed coating is initially or up to now it is used as entry coating purpose, delayed release, modified release, and fluidized bed coating for improvement of a dissolution rate is the concept highlighted here. And other one is nanonization. Nanonization is also not a new concept. Nanonization, nano suspensions are available, and nano suspension is available in liquid dosage form, and the patient acceptance may be more in case of solid dosage forms. So here I wish to make some attempt to convert that nano suspension into a solid dosage form in order to enjoy the benefits of nanoness. So it is a nano suspension benefits, whatever you are expecting, the same benefits will be witnessed in case of solid dosage form. So pelletization technique is industrially acceptable and feasible technique. So that is the application here. So pelletization with nanonized concept. So it is hybridization of two techniques. One is a pelletization technique and other one is a nanonization technique. A drug will be nanonized in suspension form, and the second one is that liquid dosage form is converted to a solid dosage form, so that whatever the benefits of pellets like free flowing, uniformity, and good solid dosage form, and other benefits like nano suspension, better dissolution, better solubility, better bioavailability. So by combining those two techniques, we can get a product which is having nano suspension benefits as well as the processability benefits, which is attributed by solid dosage form. Now the question will arise whether fluidized bed coating really improve dissolution rate or not, whether it is theoretical or practical. So whenever you are doing this technique practically, we have to evidence based is required. So in order to showcase that evidence, we have to conduct dissolution studies of pure drug and dissolution studies of this fluidized nano suspension deposited over the sugar or microcrystalline cellulose beads. So the dissolution studies of the earlier product, earlier API, and dissolution studies of this product should be conducted by using same dissolution medium, same dissolution apparatus, and by using same conditions. Later, at appropriate intervals of time, the samples will be collected and analyzed for the drug content. From the dissolution data, various in vitro dissolution parameters like dissolution efficiency, dissolution rate should be calculated by fitting the data in various mathematical equations like first order or zero order. From that, or even Hickson-Crowell mathematical equation in which you got good correlation or R value from that various parameters like Q30 or Q45 or T50, T90 values, and we have to compare this data. And once this data is conducted, these parameters should be subjected to some statistical interpretation like ANOVA or t-test, and from significant appreciable variations in the dissolution or not. So you can make such kind of research work in your laboratories. That is my practical experience, because we developed two dosage forms with this technology, and I suggest this is one of the worthwhile technique which we can go for dissolution enhancement. And thank you one and all for your patient listening during this 1 hour on enhancement of dissolution by a modified technique, that is deposition of a nano suspension over the surface of a non-parallel sugar beads. And once again, thank the organizing committee for giving me an opportunity to share my some of practical evidence-based experiences to improve the dissolution rate of BCS class 2 drug. And now any questions you can ask, so that I will try to address those issues.
Thank you very much, sir. The session was very informative. Now the session is open for queries, and I request Mr. M. Shabarish, Assistant Professor, to take over this question and answer session.
Sabri sir.
Sabri sir, unmute sir.
Sabri sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Unmute yourself.
Okay, sir.
Sir, please start up.
Okay, sir. Welcome to QA session. So, good afternoon, sir. Question from Mr. Mukesh Khanna. What is the criteria to decide pH 1.2, 4.4, 6.8, 7.4 buffers for dissolution?
Okay, because the solid dosage forms are subjected to dissolution, that is in vivo dissolution in the gastrointestinal tract, where the drug or drug delivery system will pass via various environments. Starting from the saliva, it is having a 6.8 pH, whereas in case of gastric environment, 0.1 normal hydrochloric acid, that is 1.2 pH. And in the small intestine, as you are moving from duodenum to jejunum, jejunum to ileum, ileum to colon, the pH of the environment is gradually varied from 1 to 8. And hence, the drug may get dissolved in any one of these pH. So in order to create bio-relevant dissolution studies, it is advised to conduct the dissolution studies in 1 to 8. If the drug is having the required solubility and dissolution in any one of these mediums, that is not having any solubility and dissolution problems. So that is the criteria behind the motive or selection of the pH and setting the pH to 1 to 8. I hope your question is addressed properly. Still, if you are having any doubt, you can raise.
Thank you, sir. Next question from Dr. Madhavi Lata. Which methods are used to enhance the dissolution of poorly soluble drugs?
So there are several techniques to improve the solubility and dissolution rate of poorly soluble drugs. Even some of the drugs, for example, piroxicam. Piroxicam is not having good solubility. Then piroxicam can be complexed with beta-cyclodextrins. So piroxicam beta-cyclodextrin complex can be used to formulate a tablet, and this is available in the market also. That is one approach. And second approach is if a drug is having pH-dependent solubility, then we can identify at what pH the drug is having solubility by keeping some buffers. The solubility and dissolution can be improved. In case of aspirin, that technique was used, and buffered aspirin tablets are also available in the market. Another approach is by changes in the physicochemical properties of the drug. That is a particle size engineering technology, where there is a conversion of amorphous form or glossy solids, or by using solid dispersions, or even prodrug approach, the solubility dissolution can be enhanced. Another one is a pharmaceutical approach. Pharmaceutical approach by using some excipients, in presence of which excipient it is having better solubility, by incorporation of some wetting agents, by using surfactants, the solubility dissolution can be promoted. Another one is the Speedostock micronization or particle size reduction technology. So anyone you can take, depending upon feasibility and the facilities available at our institution levels.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question from Dr. Ramesh. If dissolution number is more than 1, what parameters have to consider?
If the dissolution parameter is having more than 1, that is not having any problem at all. And if the dissolution number is less than 1, then only we have to go for enhancement of dissolution, and it is a problematic candidate.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question from Sheikh Shabana. What are the advantages of nano coating than conventional coating?
Because conventional coating, where the particle size is not reduced, the particle size of the drug is not reduced. The API is dissolved or dispersed in some solvent, and it will be deposited. And where the particle size is not manipulated, and hence the dissolution is influenced by only physicochemical properties of the basic API. that is unmodified API. Whereas here, the particle size of the drug is reduced, and because of which the benefits of the micronization and enhancement of surface area, solubility of the drug. So two parameters are going to be changed here. As per Nash-Whitney equation, the surface area is increased and solubility of the drug is also increased. So two parameters in the numerator are increased, thereby better dissolution is anticipated with this technology.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for answering the questions.
Thank you, sir. Now it's a time for virtual felicitation of the speaker by our convener.
Madam, am I audible?
Yes, audible,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Dr. Balaji, sir, audible.
Sir, very good afternoon to you.
Very good afternoon.
Sir, thank you for accepting our invitation and gracing this occasion and delivering a very great lecture. Such a senior person accepting our invitation and delivering the lecture is very good for us and for the student community. Of course, COVID season, we have to meet through webinars only. When the college reopens, we definitely will get an opportunity to invite you to our campus. Please do visit us. So you can meet our students in person. As a token of our appreciation and to show our love and affection, we are presenting you a small certificate of appreciation via e-certificate. It will be emailed to you. Once the college reopens, a hard copy will be posted. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Balaji Garu, for giving me an opportunity. Thank you. Because as a professional, we are all service motivated, and that is our responsibility. As you mentioned, senior means we should be motivated the younger generation so that they will get benefited with our knowledge and experiences. So it is one of the platform provided for me to share some of my experiences to our juniors and young researchers and student community in particular. So I am very much thankful to you for giving this certificate and giving the platform for presentation. Thank you, one and all. Thank you all organizing committee members and the participants. So take appropriate precautions, stay safe, stay healthy. Right.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, madam.
Now I request Dr. Narahari Narayan Pillai to propose the vote of thanks.
So, thank you, ma'am. So, good afternoon to all of you. So, I deemed it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude and sincere thanks to our beloved chairman, Dr. M. Mohan Babu Garu, and revered CEO Vishnu Manchu Garu for providing facilities to conduct this 3-day e-symposium. I would like to express my thanks to our special guest and today's speaker, Professor T. Gopal Krishnamurthy Garu, who despite his busy schedule has found time to grace this occasion. Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation and making this webinar interesting and meaningful. I would like to thank our advisor cum director of SBET, Professor L. Venugopal Reddy Garu, and Director Quality and Development, Sri Vidyaniketan Educational Trust, Dr. I. Sudarshan Kumar Garu, for their moral support and guidance. I would like to thank our principal and convener of the symposium, Dr. Anna Balaji Garu, and Vice Principal, Dr. S. Mohan Lakshmi Madam, for their moral support and guidance. I would like to thank Head of the Department, Pharmaceutics, Dr. K. Sarvana Kumar Garu, and organizing committee and faculty members who have made this webinar great success. I thank all the participants across the country who have participated and made this event success. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Advanced Bakrid wishes to Muslim friends.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So I would like to thank one and all, and let us all end our session here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you very much.